This episode is brought to you by Dragon Raja. Thanks, Dragon Raja. Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of an ongoing series where we basically take the camera anywhere we want to try to find secrets and new discoveries to some of our favorite games. We got another episode thanks to Bid. Bid unlocked the camera to Guitar Hero 1, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. One of the white whales, honestly, of this show. I've always wanted to cover Guitar Hero, and while there isn't a ton of 3D graphical content, I got creative. You'll see what I mean in a second. So first, let's take a close look at the first venue of the game, which is the Cellar. The whole thing starts off with a first-person perspective of somebody walking down the steps, just showing you that at the top of the stairs, there's nothing going on, sadly, except for the fact that it's trapped. In fact, the entire venue is the only venue in the game that has a fully modeled prism. So panning it out doesn't look that interesting, sadly. Otherwise, I probably would have used it for the thumbnail. But it's still kind of neat because if you look at the walls, it's just completely plastered with show posters. And taking the camera back inside, we can just slow down and really admire what's going on back here. Like, for example, the silhouette of grass signifying the lawn that's outside, as well as the bike tires that just seem to be in different corners of the room. Also took the liberty of taking the camera inside of one of the main characters' faces. Your Guitar Hero is the only character in the entire game that has orbs for eyes. Everybody else has textures. But still, that doesn't make it any less impressive that one of the most iconic characters in the entire series, Scruffy, who's the bassist of your band, has eyes himself. This is surprising because the hair that goes over his face pretty much covers up any evidence that there would be eyes. And of course, I'm slowing down the footage here just so you can get a better look. We can also take the camera inside of his face because the lighting doesn't affect it at all, which allows us to see that Scruffy's eyes are in fact blue. Not only that, but Scruffy's also a neck beard. Taking the camera underneath his chin can show you that his neck is completely textured with hair. And also we can slow it down so we can read his shirt, which says, "Lords of Rock will nuke your soul." Anyways, we're moving on to the second venue, and before we get into details about that, let's talk about the audience members for a second. You might notice that for this video, all the audience members has black boxes kind of surrounding most of the people in the audience. Well, this is a glitch, but a perfect opportunity to talk about a developer technique. See, the PlayStation 2 has a hard time having that much geometry on screen, and so in order to compensate for that, what's happening here is that there's only a small handful of audience members that are actually rendered, and those are the ones without the black boxes, and the rest of the people in the audience are essentially a projection of all the movements of the audience members that are actually rendered. If you look really closely, you'll notice that anybody that looks identical to another person has an identical pose to the adjacent model. Alright, anyways, this second venue here, GBCB, has all sorts of crazy stuff. The first of which I want to talk to you about is this exit door here, which does not have an exit sign. It does, but it would never be seen by the player. So you have to get on the opposite side of the building, out of bounds, in order to see an unused exit sign. Now granted, there's no detail to this exit sign, possibly because that's just how it was supposed to look, or possibly because the exit texture was just never applied to it. But it does emit its own light source, and it does hang above the exit doors. On top of that, there's all sorts of posters that you can actually read, like this one of a robot that says the Model Sons live at GBCB, as well as this drawing of a cat that says Treehorn. Also, in later venues of the game, the crowd gets so big that they start using the classic technique of billboarding. And taking the camera up here will show you the detailed billboards, and I'll hold the camera on there for a little while so you can really soak it in. One of the members of the crowd sort of has a setup that's similar to the band Kiss, and then further back than that, they're just like Mr. Game & Watches. It's kind of fun seeing all the little individual poses for each one. Anyways, let's do a zoom out of the venue we were just talking about, the Garden. Alright, now I'm going to turn it over to Snipey, who's going to read out today's sponsor for you. I gotta say, this one's pretty special, so enjoy.
Hi, my name is Belford, your local non-licensed attorney, and I'm here to help you play Dragon Raja.
The popular cyberpunk-style MMORPG is holding a new club competition event called Cloud Conqueror. Here's my in-house technician, Lars Bunderfund, to explain exactly how they did it.
This is blank. You heard it here, folks. If you like being number one in PvP as much as I do, then don't miss out on team battles with club members. If your club is the best, you'll even get special rewards and items. And as you can see, the higher the ranking, the higher the reward.
Clubs in the top 2 will also qualify for the cross-server tournament, a 10-round gauntlet with 1 round on each Saturday and Sunday.
The club with the most wins, well, wins. We never found what happens to the one that loses. Isn't that right, Lars?
I love my clients, almost as much as I love not being destitute. Click the link in the description below to try out the game and use the CD key ZRYGZBN for extra rewards.
And some of you might be wondering what the heck the fretboard looks like from another angle. Well, I'm going to have to slow down the footage because it can get a little bit headache-inducing. And there isn't much to see here, but I did want to provide what it does look like for those that are curious. Now that we got that out of the way, I just wanted to point out that there is a lot of audience members that are uniquely modeled. For crowd models, these are some of the most impressive that I've seen for at least a PlayStation 2 game. There are so many with a unique charm about them, and the poly count on them are pretty good, which I think we can all agree is pretty impressive for a game where you barely notice the crowd at all because you're busy playing Guitar Hero. Sorry, so this is the thing that I was referencing at the start of the episode. We're gonna boundary break the Guitar Hero guitar itself. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on it, I promise, but it's worth checking out real quick. I mean, you guys have played on this thing for years, and many of you probably didn't even know what it looked like on the inside. All you knew is that it was shockingly light. And the big reason for that is because all you see here is a total of 3 circuit boards. There's the one for strumming, there's the one for the buttons, which by the way have little rubber stoppers, and you can even remove those rubber stoppers to expose the contact needed to press the button on the circuit board. And then the largest circuit board is used for the strumming. The way this guy works is that there's 2 buttons on this board, and by strumming, you're actually applying pressure from the plastic unit that you have and having it press one of those 2 buttons. And there you go, that's your Guitar Hero guitar. Moving on to the Red Octane venue, I first want to start off by zooming the camera out so that you can see the entire venue in one shot. But beyond that, I also want to show you something kind of cool. Now, by taking control of the camera at a certain time, I'm able to get the entire area in one shot. However, if I take control of the camera at the wrong time, the game does use a good amount of culling. And because of this, the Red Octane logo gets completely culled out except for the register mark that's at the end of the logo. Anyways, moving on to Toxic Summerfest. Here's what the whole area looks like without any audience members. But more importantly, there's this guy over here. It's a skateboarder. Now, this is something you're not really supposed to get a good look at all. But he also is pretty well modeled. His skateboard, on the other hand, could use some work. If we slow down the footage, we can see that the wheels on the skateboard really look more like hourglasses, which is kind of funny. We can also get a good look at the bottom of the skateboard, which is like an 8-bit light bulb. Not only that, but the skateboarder is doing a hand gesture while skateboarding, and he also has no shoes. His feet are just his jeans all the way down. Next, I want to give you guys a close-up of the drummer. Again, with the way that Guitar Hero is, both with your own distraction playing the game, as well as the constantly moving camera angles, you don't get a great look at these models. So I kind of want to just keep the camera focused on the drummer for a little while so that you can really get an idea of what he looks like. And now that we settled on him for a bit, let's go over to the singer too. Taking the camera inside of his head can give you a look at his face without the disruption of lighting effects. But of course, it also messes up the geometry of his face. So also, we never did a zoom out of the freak pit. Here's what that looks like zoomed out. Also, it's a little hard to see. There's always been a fog machine that's just outside of bounds that'll blow smoke, and just below that is a texture that says no diving. And although it's going to be a little bit blurry because that's just how it works with this camera, here's what the freak pit looks like without the crowd at all. Now you can get a good look at the venue completely empty. And one more thing I wanted to mention before we go, there's a bar in the freak pit, and in it there's a light up sign that says Crown, as well as a bunch of liquor bottles that are just completely flat 2D textures. If you're not feeling completely satiated, there's a ton more Out of Bounds content on the channel. In fact, I'm going to throw down a little challenge for you guys. Type in one of your favorite games into the YouTube search engine, and then type in Boundary Break. And if there's an episode that pops up that you've never seen before, I want you to leave a comment to just let me know that somehow you missed this one. There's been over 200 games covered on this channel, so I wish you luck.